And joining us from Bristol out of the UK is Tony Gosling, historian and investigative journalist. Hello, Tony. It's been a while. It's good to check in with you. Hope you're safe and doing well. Now, Tony, so let me get this right. When it comes to the Security Council, it cares for the security of goods headed for Israel on the high seas, but not for the children of Gaza, their security. What do we say about that?
Well, look, what's happening, I think, at the United Nations is showing it's trying to be even-handed. Quite obvious to the whole world is that the genocide in Gaza is a far greater problem. But it's the UN and particularly the United States and Britain, their failure to deal with the genocidal Israelis that's led to these problems in the Red Sea. Now, I just ask you if, say, for example, in the Great Lakes, there was a massacre, as there was a few hundred years ago, of North American Indians going on, would those people who were doing that, would the locals there be happy for ships to be going in to aid that genocide? Of course not. You have to think that this is the other side of the world from the United States, and the idea that they can just support financially a genocide taking place and then expect not to have any trouble from the locals. I mean, we get here on the British news constantly, oh, well, the Houthi rebels are Iranian proxies, they're Iranian backed. Well, no, they're neighbors, they're neighboring countries, right? So actually, Israel is a proxy, and it's backed by the United States, many thousands of miles away. So you have to, I think, look at the regional attempt of the United States to project its power into the Middle East, and obviously the British hanging on their coattails too. And get this in proportion, because the only ships that are being targeted in the Red Sea are those which are part of this Anglo-Zionist empire, which is supporting the genocide. So the problems have just come from the genocide, and this is really to be expected. And I'm sure many of the transportation companies, oil companies, etc., that use the Red Sea expected this sort of thing to happen.
Right, but what does that do for your credibility as the U.S.? You proclaim to be this so-called international defender of human rights and values, but here you are vetoing a resolution that could stop killing women and children, yet you're out here protecting containers but not children. It's just, I don't know, maybe it's just me, Tony, but it sounds outlandish.
Well, look, it's wrong. As a simple fact, human lives are far more important than the products being moved around. And let's just take a retrospective over the holiday period, because we've had these horrific attacks by the Anglo-Zionist Empire on the Russian sinking one of the Russian ships. Now, I wonder what the British would say if their HMS Diamond was sunk by the Russians. It was British missiles which were used and British targeting methods which were used to sink this Russian ship. So we've always got to think, I think, what would it be like if it happened to the other side? We've then seen this Iranian leader killed in Syria, assassinated, an act of war by the Israelis. Or by, I mean, sometimes we don't really know quite who's responsible. We know it's the Anglo-Zionist Empire. Then we've had the horrific attack in Kerman in Iran, 100 people killed there. So and followed by Abu Taka in Iraq, who was killed. So lots of assassinations going on, even the sinking of a major warship by the Anglo-Zionist Empire, and yet they still think that they're going to have the free right to move their goods around the world. This actually, I think, is one of the things which may decide this matter, is a financial hit that the West has to take. They may then start taking things more seriously. So in a way, the Houthis are doing as little harm to human life as they can by actually actually helping the Palestinians to survive this. Now, this genocide, by the way, of course, we're getting into the stages of disease, starvation, and many more thousands of people are going to be dying, not by US-made Israeli bombs, but also by these other methods, these more pernicious methods, which, of course, do amount to genocide. And it's good to see the South Africans taking them on in the international courts.
And you know what gets me, Tony, that so many red flags don't go up, how easily this thing is a powder keg that could easily spread from Gaza into Lebanon, into Syria, into Iraq, into the Red and Arabian seas. That Yemeni said they're not going to stop targeting regardless. I mean, the U.S. Targeted you very well know, a small little fleet of Yemeni boats a couple weeks ago. They killed 11 Yemenis. They said we're still going to target Israeli ships for in protection of Gazans, regardless of what you're going to do, regardless of the coalition, regardless of the attacks that you basically target us with. And now they're saying we're going to continue regardless of this UN Security Council resolution. Tell me, is this not a recipe for disaster, for a quick increase in tensions and a spread of this thing throughout the region?
I don't think so, actually, because the targeting of freight transport is a minor thing compared to the mass slaughter of human beings going on in Gaza. A couple of extra things to say is, one, is this whole business seems to be predicated on the future political career of one man, Benjamin Netanyahu, who knows that if he loses this, or if he has to back down in this slaughter of Palestinians, this genocide, that he is probably going to end up in prison. And so this is one of the things that's driving this. It's perversely driving this. But also, we can look back, can't we, over the last few decades and at all of these Western-backed proxy wars that have been going on against countries like Yemen, against in Ethiopia as well, also in Sudan, and similar countries along the Red Sea, for example, the Red Sea coast. This is what it's all about. This control of the Red Sea is the one thing that the West, I think, fears more than anything else, that it's going to be denied to them, that the Suez Canal is going to be denied to them, and that's going to hit them in the pocket very much. It's something like an extra 5,000 miles to get to some of the European countries, even more because the Mediterranean is closer. So it's going to hit them in the pocket, and I think that's the only way to deal with the West. As we saw with the IRA campaign many years ago, hit them in the pocket, and then they come to the negotiating table.
All right, good stuff, Tony. Always a pleasure. Stay safe. Mr. Tony Gosling there joining us out of Bristol.
Thank you.
You bet.